So after the decline of the Mauryan Empire, there were several years of unrest. So the kingdoms started to divide, and sometime later, around 250 CE, Sri Gupta established his Gupta Empire near Patliputra. But it was his son Chandragupta I who is known to be the first important ruler. So Chandragupta I expanded the kingdom to further regions from where it originally started. But his son Samudragupta further expanded the kingdom to the regions you see right now, which covered most of the parts of India. Now that you have seen, the Gupta Empire covered most of the parts of India. So let us now see from where do we get the evidence about the existence of the Gupta Empire. So we get to know about the existence of the Gupta Empire from the sources of history. So basically there are two sources of history, that is the literary sources and the archaeological sources. Now one of the most important archaeological sources from the time of the Guptas is the Allahabad pillar inscription, and it was composed by Harisena. Now who was Harisena? He was the court poet of Samudragupta. Now this Allahabad pillar was originally built by Ashoka, but during the reign of Samudragupta, Harisena composed lines that were inscribed upon this pillar in praise of the king. So now let us see what was written on this Allahabad pillar. So on the Allahabad pillar, as I already told you, there were lines written in praise of the king. So this is what Prashasti means. Prashasti in Sanskrit means praise. So this praise was written for Samudragupta. As you can see the picture over here, this is just one sentence that is written across 33 lines. But what is written on this Prashasti is about the conquest of Samudragupta. Can you tell me who composed the Allahabad pillar inscription? Was it Harisena, Kalidasa or Samudragupta? Yes, it was Harisena. Now as I already told you, Harisena wrote on the pillars in praise of Samudragupta. But what was actually written? I have already mentioned that Harisena mentioned about the conquest of Samudragupta. But what was actually written about his conquest? Now let us see. Now it is said that Samudragupta defeated 9 rulers in the northern part of India. He also went on to conquer parts of Bengal, Assam and the modern day Orissa, that is the parts of Kalinga. Further, he wanted to expand his kingdom and defeated the rulers in the southern region and conquered these portions. But he was a wise ruler. So what he did, he knew that communication would be a serious problem in times of emergency. So he did not annex the kingdoms in the south. So he let them rule on one condition, that they would have to pay a hefty sum of money as a tribute to Samudragupta. So you see how he expanded his kingdom from a portion which extended only to the northern region. He further went on to parts of east and extended his kingdom down southwards. Just like the Mauryans, even Samudragupta knew that it was very important to establish good relations with the foreigners, as not only it would strengthen the country but also open the trade routes with the other countries. Being situated on the banks of river Ganga and Son, trade was already happening inside the country, but they also wanted to extend to countries further east like Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia, Malaysia, Indonesia and Singapore. So increase in trade meant increase in wealth to the kingdom, that would lead to the prosperity. You have already seen this picture. Look at it carefully. What do you infer from this picture? Yes, it is Samudragupta playing the veena. Now you already saw how we learned so many things about Samudragupta from the Allahabad inscription. Similarly, this is a coin from where we see that Samudragupta used to play the veena. Okay, so what inference do we draw from here? That not only was he a great military general, but he was also an avid lover of art and culture. Harisena also used to describe Samudragupta as Kaviraj. So what does Kaviraj mean? It means the king of poets. So why would Harisena, who is a poet himself, call Samudragupta Kaviraj? So it obviously describes how Samudragupta used to indulge himself into the art and culture, and he was very much keen on composing poetry himself. Now till now what we were seeing were the archaeological sources. Now let us come to the literary sources and what do these literary sources tell us. So among the literary sources from the time of Guptas are the accounts of Fa-Hien. Now who was Fa-Hien? He was a Chinese Buddhist monk who travelled to India on foot. Now can you tell me why would a person travel thousands of kilometers on foot? So as you already know, India was the place where Buddhism originated. So Fa-Hien came to India to learn more about Buddhism. So during his stay in India, he wrote various records, whatever he observed. And it was especially during the reign of Chandragupta too. But before we come to that, let us see what he actually wrote. So Fa-Hien wrote a book, Pho Kyo Ki, which means the travels of Fa-Hien. And what do we find in that book? So what did he write in his book? During his stay, he saw that in India there were different sects of different religions like Vaishnavism, Shivism, Judaism, Buddhism, many different sects of different religions who were living together peacefully. And he also saw that the crime rates were very less over here. So the punishments were also very mild. There were very rare instances where the punishment was harsh. Now when he visited Patliputra, he also mentioned things about Patliputra in his record. He said that in Patliputra, there were many charitable organizations which worked for the welfare of the people. Not only this, we also get to know many things about the society from the writings of Fa-Hien. He mentioned that agriculture and trade were the main occupation. So can you tell me why agriculture and trade were the main occupation? So as we already know, Gupta Empire was situated on the banks of river Son and Ganga, which meant that the land around was very fertile. So agriculture thrived, and these rivers also helped in trading. So not only trade and agriculture, there were several other professions too which people practiced, like carpentry, spinning, weaving, pot making, goldsmithery, animal husbandry. So these were some of the professions which also flourished during the time of the Guptas. Now, as I already mentioned, Fa-Hien mainly wrote about Chandragupta too. Why? Because he came to India during the rule of Chandragupta too. So now let us see what was actually told about him. Now there is a story that revolves around Chandragupta too, and the story is named as Devi Chandragupta. Now what was said in this? So it was Ramagupta, the elder brother of Chandragupta too, who ascended the throne after Samudragupta. But under some crisis, he surrendered his wife to the Sakas. At this point, what did he do? He fought the Sakas and managed to rescue his sister-in-law, who was already widowed by now. So in order to save her honor, he married her and assumed the throne at Patliputra. After he ascended the throne, he took up the title of Vikramaditya for himself. Now, in order to annex the portions of the western satraps, he knew that the help of Vakatakas would be very necessary, as they lie just right next to each other. But why do you think that he was so adamant on getting the western satraps? Because the western satrap lies on the coast region. That means this region would have many ports, and having ports means increase in trade. So what did he do? he extended marriage alliance with the Vakatakas. And this marriage alliance proved to be very beneficial, and with the help of the Vakatakas, he managed to defeat the Western Satrap and annexed this portion into his own kingdom. Now, what were the items that the trading from this portion would have brought? So, the item that was brought from Rome in exchange of the Indian spices was gold. So, having gold meant increase in wealth for the kingdom. So, you see, this was the extent of the Gupta dynasty in 375 CE. That is how Samudragupta left the empire. And now what you see here is from 413 CE, and here you see that Western Satrap was included. Now can you tell me who included Western Satrap under the rule of the Gupta Empire? Yes, Chandragupta II. But what do we know about Chandragupta II from the writings of Fahen? So Fahen told that he was a benevolent ruler and he had benevolent administration which was not very harsh upon the people, and he was very just. It is even said that he loved literature and art. Now as he loved art and literature so much, he had 9 gems in his court. Now these 9 gems are known as Navratnas. And as you already know, that Chandragupta II assumed the title of Vikram Aditya for himself. So now as you see the Navratnas, these were the 9 gems. So 9 people adorned the court of Chandragupta II. From these 9 gems, the most important were Amarasimha, who wrote Amarakosha, which is a Sanskrit dictionary, Varaha Mihira, who was a well-known astrologer, and Kalidas, who was a very well-known poet whose work we study even till now. So you see how from the sources of history, that is the literary sources and the archaeological sources, we find details about an empire. Like here from the Allahabad pillar inscription, we get to know so much about Samudragupta, and from the writings of Fahen we get to know about Chandragupta II and how his court was adorned with 9 gems. You also saw from the writings of Fahen that agriculture and trade were the main occupations, but there were also many other professions which people practiced. So wasn't it interesting to know how these literary and archaeological sources serve as history bricks and help us to reconstruct our past? Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. You can also register for free at DeltaStep.com or download the DeltaStep app and get access to all our 5,000 plus amazing videos as per your school syllabus. Master each topic with our adaptive practice technology, get million plus questions with step-by-step solutions and unlimited mock tests. Get all your doubts resolved instantly. Learn via games and win amazing prizes like PlayStations and iPads. So at DeltaStep, learning is not just fun and easy, it is rewarding too. So register for free now.